Okay, please be seated. Prosecutor, you want to call your next witness?
Yes, sir. His name call is Jonathan Harrington.
Hello, sir. Just watch your step as you're coming up to the witness stand there.
Okay, thank you.
Sure. Sir, could you put your left hand on the Bible there? Raise your right hand for me. Do you solemnly swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, sir.
Okay, you can sit down. Once you're comfortable, can you state your full name for the record and spell your last name, please?
Jonathan Harrington, Harrington.
Okay. Sir, I just want to make sure you speak up loud enough so juror numbers 15 and 16 can hear you in the corner. Okay, sir?
Okay.
All right, thank you. Prosecutor?
Thank you, Judge. Mr. Harrington, good morning.
Good morning.
Could you tell us where you live, I guess currently?
26 Tilton Drive,
Okay, and how long have you lived there?
since 1994.
Okay. Now, I want to draw your attention back to November 20th of 2018. Do you remember that morning?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, at that point in time, were you still working?
No, I was retired.
Okay. And what did you do for a living?
I was a crane operator.
Okay. Now, I want to ask you a question about whether or not at some point that morning you were alerted to a residential fire in your neighborhood.
Yes.
Okay. And how did that happen? How were you alerted?
By the noise of the vehicles coming and the flashing red lights of a vehicle that was next door.
When you first heard any noises around your house, where were you specifically?
I was in my bedroom.
Okay. Where specifically in your bedroom were you?
I was laying in my bed.
Okay. So you were lying in bed. What did you hear?
There were loud voices in the street, and I couldn't really tell what they were saying or anything.
Okay. Then did you immediately get up?
No, I did not get up then.
Okay. Tell us what happened.
Well, after that, I was just, casually laying in bed. I wasn't going to go back to sleep. And then I noticed that there were some red lights flashing, okay? And I opened my shade, and I looked across the street, and there was a vehicle in my neighbor's driveway, which was next to the house in question.
When you say neighbor, who is your neighbor?
Marilyn Klein.
Okay. So you got out of bed at some point, as you described, and you went to your window. Can you tell us generally what you can see when you look out your window?
Yes, I can see Canario's house from the south side to just before the garage.
Can you see any other homes when you look directly out your window in the bedroom?
Only Marilyn's.
Okay. So you could see, you said Marilyn's, correct? And then you also referenced the Caneiro house, correct? Now, you looked outside, that's what you can see generally. What specifically did you see that morning?
Okay. When I opened the shade, I saw someone, to me, looked like they grabbed the fire extinguisher and was going to walk into the front of the house, the door.
That person, I mean, did you specifically see a fire extinguisher or what?
I would say that that's basically what I saw, yes.
Okay. And that person, where did you first see that person?
That was the person that parked the vehicle in Marilyn's driveway.
Okay. Now, that person approached where, you said?
The front door?
Okay. And did you watch that person once they got to the front door?
I wouldn't say that I did. No, I don't know whether he went inside. I don't remember that.
Did you make observations, just to be clear, of that person approaching the front door?
What do you mean by observations?
Did you see that person near the front door?
Oh, yes, on the porch, going toward, right in front of them.
And just with respect to the front door, and I don't know if I specifically asked you, which house's front door are we talking about?
The Caneiro house.
Okay. And before we go any further, did you know the people that lived in that house?
Yes.
And how many people lived there based upon your understanding back in 2018?
4.
And who were they?
It was Paul, his wife Susan, and the 2 girls.
Okay. Did you know their names at the time?
Yes.
Now, once you made the observation of the person near the Caneiro front door, what if anything, did you see?
I think at that point in time, to tell you the truth, I didn't really think much about it. I probably just, turned around and, maybe I sat on the bed or something like that. And it wasn't until I heard the approaching fire apparatus that I got back up.
Okay. So, just to go back a step,
Okay.
when you first approached your bedroom window, I think you referenced doing so because of some lights, correct?
Yes.
Could you tell us what specifically in that regard you saw? Did you see lights once you went to the window?
The lights were, that's why I got up, because I saw the flashing lights.
Did you see any flashing lights out your window once you looked?
That I don't think I did.
Okay. So then you see a vehicle, as you said, up in Maryland's driveway?
Correct. That was the vehicle.
That person approached the front door.
Correct.
Now, at any point in time, did you observe any smoke or flames?
Shortly after that, yes, there appeared to be just smoke on the backside, on the right, which would be me facing the house. There was some smoke. No flames at that moment.
When you saw the smoke, just to be clear, were you still in your bedroom?
Yes.
At some point in time, did you go anywhere else?
I don't think so.
Did you ever leave your bedroom?
Eventually, yes.
Okay, tell us about it.
Okay. Basically, what I did was, when I heard the trucks, okay, this is after the smoke, so then there was a glow behind the house, which I assumed was a fire at that time. So I got dressed, went to the bathroom, came downstairs, put a coat on, opened the garage door, and went outside.
Okay. And once you did all that and you went outside, can you tell us what was going on in the area at that time?
Well, the fire trucks were setting up, okay? Oakhurst was on the north side of the building, okay? There was police cars around. There was the Wanamassa Fire Department was to the south.
Now, when you talk about fire departments, and do you have any experience with fire departments, just to be clear?
I was a firefighter in Allenhurst.
Okay. Volunteer?
Yes.
Now, once you're outside and you see the fire trucks, like, what's the status of what you can observe fire-wise across the street?
The fire was starting to come up above the roof line on the backside.
Fair to say that you can't actually see all of the fire from where you were, right?
All I could see were the flames coming up.
Okay. I just want to approach you with what's been marked as S1A. If I may, Judge?
You can.
Just going to show you pretty briefly. It's been marked as S1A, slide 9. Do you recognize what's in that photograph?
That's the house, Caneiro house.
Okay. Now, does that fairly and accurately depict, like, or show what it looked like around the time of November 20th of 2018?
Yes,
Okay. That you recognize that?
yes, that's no
Okay.
problem.
Let me show you slide 10 briefly. Do you recognize what's depicted in that photo?
Yes,
And what are we seeing here in this photo?
we're seeing the front of the house, and we're seeing a white truck and a, like chief's car.
Okay.
And this is the car I originally saw.
Okay, what type of vehicles, just generally, are those two vehicles, if you know?
To me, one's a truck and one's like a suburban SUV of some kind.
Do they have any correlation, based upon what you saw or know, to, police or fire?
I could not tell whether this was where where I saw the guy get the fire extinguisher and
Okay.
then go into the house, the white vehicle.
Okay,
And that's where I kind of think the lights were coming from.
okay. So, to be clear, I don't want to put anything in your
No.
head. So when you made an observation of the vehicle in Maryland's driveway, did you know it was a first responder, or did you not know?
No,
At
I
the time?
thought it was, yes.
Okay. Now, was it light or dark out when you were making the observations
Well,
out your window?
It was probably dark. I shouldn't say dark, but, like, wasn't dark.
Sure.
But it was nighttime. There wasn't really any lights other than street lights, things like that I remember.
And just to be clear, I want just to be completely clear, when you first heard anything outside your window that morning, did you tell the police what time approximately you thought it was?
I probably said sometime between 4:30 and 5, because I didn't look at any timepieces in my, the only clock that I have is the cable box has the time on it, but I just really didn't look at it specifically like when I gave my statement.
Okay. Now, your initial observations from the window, were they, did they include what's depicted in slide 10?
This one.
Yes.
This car was not there.
No, and I'm sorry, that's a good, to be clear, that's
Yes.
a good point. In slide 10, there's two vehicles in the driveway, correct?
Correct.
How many were there when you made your observations first? Okay. But as far as like what is shown in this photo, let's say what that is. Whose house is this in slide 10, in the majority of slide 10?
That's the Caneiro house.
And is there another house that's somewhat depicted in that photograph?
Yes, that's Marilyn Klein's house.
Okay. I'm just going to show you lastly slide 12
Okay.
of S1A.
I see counsel very quickly. Hold on a second.
I want to go backward 1 second. Can I have slide S1A, slide 9 on the screen, please? I'm sorry. Now, you see this screen in front of you, correct?
Yes.
And we talked about this photograph.
Yes.
If you look to your left, you can see it on the large screen. Up there.
Oh, okay.
Same photo?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
Now,
basically.
we talked about this photo, and to be clear, what's depicted in this photograph?
What can you see there?
Just the whole house.
Whose house?
Canario's house?
When you say Canario's house, you mentioned someone by the name of Paul Caneiro previously.
Paul and Susan.
How long did you know Paul Caneiro?
Basically from the time they moved in,
How many years was that, approximately?
I would say probably 18 to 20. I don't know exactly when they bought the house.
Paul Caneiro, is that person present in court today?
Yes.
Could you just point him out?
He's to my right here.
Identifies the defendant.
Now back to that photo. Is what's shown in that photograph, slide 9 of S1A, is that part of what you were able to see out your window the morning of November 20th, 2018?
Part of it, yes.
Now, can we talk about that? I'm going to show you briefly slide 10 of that same exhibit. Did I show you that earlier?
Yes.
Okay. And how many vehicles are shown in that photograph?
2.
And to be clear, how many vehicles were there when you first looked out your window that morning?
I believe I only saw 1,
Okay.
like I testified.
Would it be fair to say, and you can tell me if I'm wrong, that this photograph was taken later when it was
Yes.
light out? Yes.
Yes.
Sorry, I was talking over you, sorry. And then lastly, can I just have slide 12 of S1A? That photograph we talked about, I believe I showed it to you. What's that photograph show?
It shows like a fire captain or chief's car
Okay.
and the house.
And that's not a specific observation that you made when you first looked out the window, correct?
I do not believe so. Just I only saw the white vehicle, if I can remember correctly.
Now, when you left your house that day and you went out to the driveway, you talked about observing smoke and then flames, correct?
Correct.
Now, did you ever make any observations of any of the Caneiro family?
My only observation of them, what I saw was that I spoke to both Paul and Susan and the girls in his SUV, which was parked close to my driveway. It's a little bit later, but it was about the same time that the fire was going on.
Okay, so when you came out onto your driveway, did you see the Caneiro SUV at that time or later or something else?
I believe it was just a little bit later. Not very much later, though.
Now, do you know who your neighbor is? You know, if you're looking at the Caneiro in Marilyn's house, do you know who your neighbor is on your side to your right?
Yes, those are the caps.
That include Heather Cap?
Yes.
Now, where was the Caneiro vehicle, once you saw it, whenever that was, where was it in relation to your house and the Cap's house?
I thought it was a little bit farther towards the Cap house.
Okay.
Okay, I'm not quite sure now, only because I remember that the one massive fire truck had pulled up and connected to the fire hydrant, which is very near there. So I think it was before my house.
Okay. At any point in time, did you have conversations specifically with Paul Caneiro that morning?
Yes.
And tell us about the conversation. Why were you talking?
I walked down, and I spoke to him and the girls, and I asked them, how they were doing, and Paul was a little nervous, he was kind of upset, which I kind of thought was just the fire, and he remarked to me that he was scared that he almost lost his wife with the fire.
Just to clarify, was he emotional?
Yes.
Did he say anything to you about how the fire started or anything along those lines?
Nothing like that.
I have nothing further, Judge.
Cross.
Mr. Harrington, good morning.
Good morning.
Your involvement in this case, going back a little more than 7 years ago, you spoke to numerous law enforcement officers. Is that correct?
I
can be more specific. Let me try to be more specific.
Okay.
Originally, when all of the police were arriving, there was an officer that you spoke to kind of like in your garage area. Do you remember that?
Yes.
Okay. And you actually had told him that you were a former firefighter, right?
I guess.
Okay. And he was a uniformed officer.
Yes.
I don't know if you remember his name. It was Officer Bones? No. Okay. You also spoke to at some point, I think, like a detective on scene. It was Detective Brady. Do you remember that?
I remember Detective Brady, yes.
And what about Fire Marshal Flanagan? Do you remember speaking to him?
I might have.
Okay. And eventually, on November 24th, you were interviewed by a private investigator who worked for the defense. Do you remember that?
Yes, I think there was one person who came up and spoke to me.
About what happened that morning?
Yes.
And after that, you eventually gave a statement, or you did give a statement to the prosecutor's office. That was Detective Weiss Broughton Brady. That was on November 27th of 2018, so another few days later. Do you remember
A few
that?
days later, yes. They
That was
asked
like
if
a more-
I would go to the police station and give a statement about what I saw.
And that was like a more formal typed statement?
Yes.
Okay, and that was a week later, right?
Approximately, yes.
So, initially, what you testified to today on direct, if I understand it, is that you're in bed, right?
Correct.
And you hear voices,
Loud voices, yes.
loud voices. And those voices were multiple voices?
I would say so, yes.
Okay. And they were men, right?
I couldn't tell you whether they were men or women.
Okay. And so, do you recall telling the police that they were male voices? Actually, do you recall?
If you read it, I can probably remember.
Let's go back to this. You previously gave a statement to the private investigator, correct?
I talked to him, yes. I wouldn't say it was a statement. It was more like a casual interview while I was outside.
Okay. If I showed you a copy of his summary of your interview, would that help refresh your recollection of some of the things you said to him?
We're talking 7 years ago.
Right, of course. Okay, so I'm going to approach with D70.
Which I have never seen before.
Okay. That's all right.
Okay.
I just want you to take a look at this
Okay.
and review it and see if this refreshes your recollection as to what you told the investigator on November 24th of 2018 about who you heard speaking.
Okay. Yeah, that's pretty much what it was. If I said males, it could have been correct.
Okay, and again, like you said, you probably remembered a lot better then than you do now.
Oh, sure. I mean, time degrades everything.
Of course. And when you gave a statement to the prosecutor's office, and I can show this too if you'd like as well. Now, this one you have seen before, right?
Yes, I've seen that.
Okay, so I'm going to approach with what's been marked for identification as SED2. Mr. Harrington, this is a copy of your statement. I'm going to have you, if you flip to the last page,
Okay.
I'm just going to show you that it is 5 pages.
Yes.
And
okay.
this one has your signature on it.
Yes, it does.
So, and it also has your initials on the bottom, right?
Yes.
Is this one you reviewed at the time?
Yes.
And you wanted to make sure it was accurate, right?
I don't know whether that was the same day or not, but that's accurate.
No,
I
I'm
remember.
saying the reason they had you review it and assign it and initial it
Yes,
was so
because
that
it was pretty accurate. Within reason, yes, I agree.
these were your words, right?
Yeah, I guess.
When you look at this statement, it's like question, answer, answer,
Right.
right? Do you agree that these are the questions that they asked you and these were your answers?
If they're written there, that would be what I answered.
Okay.
In the question.
So I'm going to direct your attention to here, and if you could just read that to yourself and then just look up.
Okay.
Okay,
I see it.
So in addition to telling the investigator on November 24th that you heard male voices, you also characterized the voices as male to the prosecutor's office as well.
That's correct.
Okay. And you said you heard them speaking kind of loudly, or but not yelling, right? Or
Oh, there was, to me, it was very loud.
Very loud.
Whether you call it yelling or not, that would be, just
Okay.
how I'm trying to figure it out. But
Subjective is what
no.
you're saying.
Yes, it was more than one voice. I said a male voice, but that could have been,
It
two
was
male
more than one.
voices.
Okay. And when you heard the voices, you were lying in bed,
Yes, that's true.
and you didn't hear specifically what they said, did you?
I did not.
Okay. And then you said, I think, is it fair to say you kind of like fell back asleep for a little while?
Well, let me put it this way. I probably just laid down with my head on the pillow because I usually don't go back. Once I'm awake, I usually don't go back to sleep. It might be a light sleep, dozing off back and forth.
Again, I understand you're testifying right now to what you usually do, but I'm
Yes.
going to direct your attention
Okay.
once again, just back to, this is the statement you gave to the prosecutor's office, right?
Yes.
And you told them, I fell back asleep.
Well, I also said up here that it was a light state of sleep. Okay, so when I say sleep, it wasn't really going into a REM type of sleep. It was just being, my eyes closed, being, like light sleep. I don't know how else to explain it,
Gotcha.
Any noise, anything. Just to clarify it, I don't sleep very well anyway, so
Okay.
it would only be a light sleep that
Okay.
I'm talking about here. They're not incongruous, okay? They're both the same to me.
Got it. So you're in a light state of sleep, and specifically at around 4:30 in the morning, right?
Well, yes, because, as I said previously, I don't have a watch on or a clock in my bedroom. The only time that I can tell is what's on the cable box, okay? So if I said 4:30, maybe I glanced at it, and that was the time that I recollected that it was around 4:30. But it could have been later than 4:30, between 4:30 and 5. That's when I said,
Okay.
I don't know the exact time because I'm not looking at a timepiece.
I'm going to try to ask you just a very simple yes or no question, okay? You told both the private investigator and the prosecutor's office the week that this happened that you heard these voices at around 4:30 in the morning.
Yes.
You did, okay. And when you spoke to the officer on scene, because so, let me back up for a second. So, okay, so you're in a light state of sleep. It's around 4:30 in the morning. You hear the voices. You fall back into maybe a light state of sleep, and then you eventually wake up when you see lights. Is that right?
Correct.
And that's when you go to your window,
Correct.
and you start seeing what exactly?
That's when I saw the vehicle in Marilyn Klein's driveway, okay? And the person get out and walk towards the house with what I assumed was a fire extinguisher.
And the prosecutor showed you the photo of the vehicle. There was like a white vehicle and a red vehicle.
With the white vehicle is the one I saw.
You saw the white vehicle.
Yes, I believe so.
You did not see the red one.
I don't believe I did.
Okay. So you see the white vehicle once you get up and look out your window. Is that
Yes.
right? Okay. And how long after that until you eventually come outside?
I would say, well, time-wise, it's hard because I don't, as I said to you, I don't have the time in mind specifically because I wasn't looking at the time. So by the time I got dressed, went to the bathroom, went downstairs, got my coat on, my hat, walked to the garage, opened the garage door, and went outside. Could have been anywhere between 7, 8, 10 minutes, something like that.
Okay, when you went outside, you saw at least 2 police cars, correct?
I saw police cars, yes.
Okay. And that was at around 5 a.m., correct?
Around somewhere in that general time frame,
Okay. You told the prosecutor's office it was approximately 5 a.m., fair?
approximately 5 a.m.
So, you hear voices, multiple male voices at approximately 4:30 a.m., and then light state of sleep, fall back to sleep. About a half hour later, it's 5 a.m., and that's when you see the two police officers outside of your house, right? When you go outside.
You're kind of putting words in my mouth.
Okay.
I said
I wanna do that.
approximately 4:30, and if you listen to what I hopefully I said was sometime between 4:30 and 5, okay? That's a half hour without really looking at a clock or anything else like that. It was a generalization of the time frame at all this was going on.
When you say I'm putting words in your mouth, approximately 4:35, are you talking about when you initially heard the voices or when you saw the police?
No, you said 4:30. I'm not arguing with you, but you said that I said 4:30. I said approximately between 4:30 and 5. It could have been 4:45, okay? You understand what I'm saying? I used the 4:30 as a baseline for me.
Okay. You used 4:30 as approximately 4:30.
Approximately.
Right, as a
Yes.
baseline when you spoke to the private investigator on November 24th and when you spoke to the prosecutor's office on November 27th. You said
Correct.
that's approximately when you heard the male voices, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And then at approximately 5 a.m., that's when you were outside and you saw the police, you saw the two police officers. Is that accurate?
Close.
That's what you told the
That's what I
prosecutor's
told them,
office?
yes, but I'm just saying that's about right. Again, I don't have a clock
Can
to
we
go
be,
by.
let's be clear, when we say approximately, we're not talking about to the minute, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Okay, I'm not putting words in your mouth when I say approximately because we agree that we're talking about within a few minutes at least, right? We're not talking about to
Give or
the
take a
second.
few minutes here and there,
Okay.
yes, thank you.
All right. And at 4:30 a.m. approximately,
Thank you.
you did not see any lights, right?
No,
Okay, you just heard the voices.
just the voices.
And eventually, when you come outside and you're speaking to the officer in your garage, again, you remember that conversation.
I
Maybe you don't
remember
remember.
they came up to the garage, yes.
Okay. And do you remember speaking with him?
Yes,
Okay.
mostly a general conversation, nothing that's specific that I remember unless you have something that he said.
Actually, I do, and I have something you said. You told that officer,
Go ahead.
right, that you heard people talking about a half hour before all of the police people got there. Do you recall saying that?
I probably did, if that's what I told him.
Okay.
If that's what he said, but again, I'm using, I just don't want you to put me into a time frame that locks me into something when I just told you that I didn't have a view of a clock anywhere, okay?
So at this
So
point,
if I'm talking 4:30, I'm talking 4:30 as a general time frame.
right, we've agreed on that. Now, at this point, when you're speaking to the officer in your driveway, you actually don't mention a time, right? You say so that's approximately, about a half hour before all the police got there is when you heard the voices. That's what you told that officer, correct?
If that's what he said, because I don't remember the conversation, I remember generally talking to them.
So when you say if that's what he said, seeing a transcript, he was uniformed, right?
Yes.
So I'm not sure if you're aware of this, but the body-worn camera, it records the conversation
Okay,
and we have a
fine.
transcript. If I show you a transcript, would that refresh your memory of what you told
Sure.
him? Okay.
Sir, the transcript just documents what is actually on the video.
Okay, it's fine.
So if the attorney is asking you something and they're saying that that's what's transcribed, that means that it's something that was on the actual recording.
Okay.
So in saying that, would you have any reason to disagree with that you had a conversation with the police officer? No one's trying to put you in a box. All we're trying to do is confirm with you that you had a conversation, and if Ms. Mastalone is saying this is what the transcript says, any reason to dispute it? All she wants to know is whether that's what you would have said or not, or to help you.
Sure.
Okay, that's
Because
it.
I
I think that's
remember
what
talking
we're
to
trying to do, and no one's trying to talk you into anything.
No, I understand that.
And just to move it along, so it's in that vicinity. And again, the timing is what you remember. It's all approximation. We got it.
Judge, I was just going to say that the state obviously would stipulate to the accuracy of the transcript. I mean, we create. So
Of course, that's what I'm saying. So just trying to be helpful here and moving along this particular area.
Okay, so, sir, I'm going to approach with a copy of the transcript that we were just talking about. And I'm going to direct your attention. Well, first I'm going to show you the front page, okay? And you'll see there's like a legend.
What's it marked as, please?
Oh, I'm sorry. This is D102.
Okay.
There's a legend.
Okay.
And the legend has like everyone's name and the initials that represent who the person is.
Okay.
And do you see how JH means
Yep,
John Harrington?
that's me.
Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to direct your attention to, we're going to start on page 14 of 38. Okay. But we're going to, so your initials start here.
Okay.
Or this is where the conversation starts. So I'm going to ask that you read this page, and particularly this part here. Okay?
That's fine.
Okay, and we're going to continue. Well, based on this, you agree that you told the police that you heard people talking, right?
Yes.
Okay. And then we're going to go to the next page. I'm just going to have you read this part right here. Let me know when you're...
Yeah, no problem.
Okay, so during this conversation, you tell the police officer you heard voices talking, and the officer asks you about a half hour before we all got here, and you say yes, and then you say before this all started. Is that accurate? That's what
That's what it says.
Okay, all right, so... When you say before you all got there, obviously you were referencing the police, right? You're
I was
speaking
referencing everything.
everything. Okay.
That's correct.
And I'm just going to ask you, I'm going to show you, just to orient ourselves. This isn't blocking anyone's view, is it? I'm going to put up D1-100, D1-100.1, which has already been published to the jury. Sir, do you recognize this as a map of the area of 27 Tilton Drive?
Yes, it is.
Okay, and you can see, I'm going to point here where it says 27 Tilton Drive.
That's correct.
Mr. Paul Caneiro's house, right?
That's correct.
And then there's a house here, it's 24 Tilton with the C, that's Heather Capp's house, would you agree?
That's Heather's house, yes.
Okay, can you identify, she's handing you a pen, the clerk. If you can put, can we do a different color?
Yes, you can.
Are you just asking for him to put an H where his house is?
That's what I was going to do. I was gonna
Just
do
have him put an H on it.
Okay.
It'll be
Can
fine.
we just put a H on your house?
Sure can. Looks like a 4.
Okay. And you kind of wrote over the number, but what was the number, for the record?
Your house number. Your house number.
I'm 26 Tilton Drive.
Okay, so you're right next to 24. So you and Heather Capp are neighbors on the
Yes.
same side of the street.
Yes.
Oh, sorry.
It's
How do I
okay.
do this? Oh, maybe I can fix okay, now, is that, how about that? Can we agree on that? Is the numbers there?
Okay, this will be 100.2, please.
Okay. Am I good? I'm gonna show you one more map, sir.
Okay.
Oh, if you hit the undo button, you can undo the H.
Want me to do it?
You can use the stylus. Figured. Nicely done.
Perfect. Okay. So if I put this photo up, do you also recognize this to be a map of the area of your house? It's not the street view. It's more of like the, I don't know what we would call this, the picture view.
Neighborhood?
Yeah, this is the neighborhood, right?
Yes.
Okay. And do you see the house that's circled with a C?
Correct.
That's
I see it.
that's what it is. Okay, so that's Heather Capp's house,
That's
right?
Heather Capp's.
And you also see 27 Tilton, right?
That's correct.
Can you circle or can you do just an H over your house on this one,
Sure.
so we know? But maybe, should we do a different color in this one, because they're like overlapping? It's gonna look weird. It's gonna confuse them.
Sure.
I can assist. Is that okay? If I,
You want it?
no. Blue, you're good with blue? Okay. Can we do an H in blue?
Yeah, it's not quite an age, but you have to forgive my writing.
It's a good looking U, though.
Yeah, it is. How's that? That's close enough. We agree to that?
All right, we're going to print that. That's 100.2, please. 101.2, sorry. My bad. My bad.
Thank you so much, sir. Just. I don't have any other questions. Thank you.
No questions, Judge, thank you.
Sir, you can step down. Just be careful as you step down and leave everything else there. We'll take care of it.
Thank you.
Sure, no problem.